Hey, look at you, all grown up and needing car insurance. You don't have to freak out if you got a driving record that's not so hot or worry if you aren't sure exactly what you need. Able Insurance has your back. Pass up the national insurance companies where you're just another number and keep your auto insurance right here in Charlottesville. 979-0814 is the number. AbleInsurance.com is the site.
Go.
What up, though, Ball Hawk Show.
Say it one more time.
What up, though, Ball Hawk Show.
What up, though? Welcome to the Ball Hawk Show podcast. I'm your host, Ahmad Hawkins, and I thank you for taking time out of your day, out of your busy week, to listen to another podcast episode, the first podcast episode of the year 2019. And I definitely appreciate you guys if you've been a part of the podcast journey that I started. I want to say I started really podcasting heavily in 2016, maybe 2017. I made my transition from 92.7 KISS FM to just streaming online full-time and also 1070 WINA. So if you've been with me from the start, I definitely appreciate all the support. And if you just started tuning in, I definitely appreciate you giving me a chance and taking time out of your busy schedule to check out what I have to say. If you haven't, go subscribe to the Ball Hawk Show podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, BlogTalk Radio, PodBean, Google Play, TuneIn app. You can also go to YouTube if you love YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that I re-uploaded. My last YouTube channel, which had close to 2,000 subscribers, was removed for community guideline violations, which I don't know what the violations was because it's not like I'm cussing and showing a lot of obscene videos, but be that as it may, you got to rebuild the culture, so that's what we're doing. So make sure you go subscribe to the Ball Hawk Show podcast on YouTube and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at I am Ball Hawk. I definitely appreciate all the support. So what we're going to do, we're going to recap the Belk Bowl, UVA versus South Carolina, in which the Cavaliers came out victorious in dominant fashion by winning 28-0. So before we get started, I'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room. People have been kind of asking me where I've been. I wasn't at the Belk Bowl. I didn't do a pregame of the Belk Bowl. Didn't do a lot of content at all for the past 2 weeks, and because an unfortunate event took place. My grandmother actually got sick a couple of days after my birthday. My birthday is December 10th, and that weekend I went home to Norfolk, actually for my wife surprised me for a comedy show to see Martin Lawrence, who I've been a big fan of Martin Lawrence at the Norfolk Scope. And upon arriving to the comedy show, got a text message from my cousin, Michelle, telling me that my grandmother, who raised me, big mother, who I live with, that she was sick and her heart was failing her. So immediately after the comedy show, because they told me to take my time, because they know how I am with Big Mama. Went to go see Big Mama. She wasn't in great shape, was kind of weak, wasn't talking that much, but she did wake up when I touched her hand. I started talking to her, and she repeatedly told me she loved me, which, made me very emotional. I got to feed Big Mama, and she just kept telling me she was cold. And ironically, all the years of her being my sister, being the warmth for me, I was providing warmth for her. And she got a little better. She got a whole lot better by the end of the day. And I ended up leaving the next day. She transitioned back home. But sadly, that following Friday, she passed away. And I was devastated, so I didn't share a lot on social media. I guess out of respect for the coaching staff and for the players, I didn't want to burden them on the bad news that I had going on in my life. So I kind of kept it to myself, except for Facebook. I shared it. So, a lot of people was asking me what's been going on, Ball Hawk. We haven't seen any material from you. And then when I wasn't at the Belk Bowl, a lot of people didn't know what was going on until Coach Atua tweeted me and sent out his condolences, and that's when everybody realized that Big Mama had passed. But it was the day of her funeral, which took place the same day as the game, which is very ironic, unless you know the Lord works in mysterious ways, because I never shared this, but I wasn't going to come to the University of Virginia. Before my senior year, I was all set to go to Florida in my mind. I didn't let anybody know. Well, she knew, because my big cousin, Sean Hamlin, who I idolized, went to Florida State, and I always wanted to go to Florida State, but then I ended up getting heavily recruited by Florida. They had just won a national championship. So that was it. But Big Mama had several conversations with me, like, make sure you take an additional visit. Just don't go visit Florida. Take an additional visit. End up visiting Virginia 2 times. Coach Wells came to visit me at my house, and when he came to my big mother's house, if you understand African American culture, old school Southern culture, you have a living room and you have a den. The den area is where everybody watches TV. There's a fireplace. That's where you spend time. But the living room is where the good furniture is at, with the plastic. You got the plastic on the carpet called the runner. You got your Christmas tree, the dining room set that nobody ever uses with plastic on that. And when Coach Wells came with Coach Tom O'Brien, she allowed Coach Wells to sit in the living room, which blew my mind. And she allowed him to sit on her good plastic. And long story short, when he left, I said, Big Mom, you never let anybody sit in your living room, and you even let me sit in the living room with Coach Wells. Why did you do that? And she just looked me in my eyes to say, you know what? I know you got your sight sets going on Florida. I know you want to be like your big cousin Sean, but you need to write your own legacy. And I feel like you can write your own legacy with that gentleman that just left this house. What was his name again? I was like, Coach Welsh, you just let him sit on your couch. You don't even know his name. And she just said, it's just something in my heart that has me feeling very good about entrusting your life in his hands for 4 or 5 years. Depending on, she didn't understand the red shirt, but she knew that you could spend, 5 years in college off a scholarship. So when Big Mother told me she trusted Coach Welsh, and when she showed me she trusted Coach Welsh by sitting us in the living room on the good plastic couch, that was the reason why I went to UVA. Don't get me wrong, Aaron Brooks played an instrumental part because, growing up, idolizing him from afar, and my dad coaching him in Little League baseball. But my big mother was a huge guide in my life. She saved my life. A lot of people don't understand I was a part of a lot of gang violence and running the streets, and I should have been dead by 13 years old, and she saved my life. So I really couldn't even look at not only Virginia football games, but even basketball games, because she was Virginia to me. When I see Virginia, I see Big Mama. So during the funeral, just, weeping and then understand that she wasn't on this earth anymore. And then seeing the score of 28-0, it just really put everything in perspective. So it took me a couple of days to do this. So I thank you guys for bearing with me even through that testimony right there. A lot of you don't want to tune in to hear me tell a story like that and be on my soapbox. But I wanted to just go ahead and address that, why you haven't seen any recaps of the men's basketball games, or what took me so long to even do this podcast. Is just that it was tough for me to do anything sports related these past couple weeks. It just has. So, but we're going to jump right into it. Like I said, I thank you guys for all your condolences. Appreciate all the coaches and players. I definitely didn't want to be a distraction to anyone, and that's why you didn't really see me share it, but briefly on Facebook. I felt like, out of respect, I understood how important this bowl victory was for the program. So I didn't want any, let's do this for Ball Hawk, let's do this for Big Mama type of, I didn't want any type of just added pressure for the program. So definitely shout out to all the coaches and players, though, and the administrators and all the fans for the condolences, and my family definitely appreciate it. And I definitely appreciate what the players did on that field, because it was almost like the game and the funeral lined up. The game started at around 12. The funeral started at 12, And it seemed like as soon as we went to the gravesite and we were driving back and my wife checked her phone, it was like, oh, the Virginia game just ended. And they won 28-0. I was just like, wow. So we're going to go ahead and recap this game. I just watched the film various times. The first thing I can say about this game is that it was totally different than last year's bowl game, just the preparation. And I think that boils down to the type of offense that we were preparing for in the Belk game versus the Military Bowl game. We were in the same predicament as far as lack of depth at the defensive line spot. But we were more equipped and better prepared because of, if you go back to the Miami game, the Duke game, when we started running that two defensive linemen set, and we had basically two linebackers, basically, call it 2-4-5. That helped us have just 4 down linemen in the Belk Bowl. So we wasn't uncomfortable this bowl game, if that makes sense. With Chris Peace on one side and the emergence of Charles Snowden on the other side, and then you had Snyder, who had a lot of important snaps this year because of the injury to Jordan Mack, and then ZZ Top also having a lot of snaps. So it allows us to have that depth and not lose a beat because Manny Alonso was injured and so many defensive linemen were beat up. But it was good to see Jordan Redmond get reps and Tommy Chris getting reps. We know what Eli Handback can do, but I just felt like we played so sound on the defensive side of the ball, from the coverage, from our abilities to use different stunts, from just the base look, not having to load up the box and tip our hand and put our DBs on the island. I just felt like, this season just showed how good of a coach, how much this coaching staff has grown each and every day since they've been here. Their ability to not only adjust, but their ability to just coach from the top to the bottom. Everybody gets coached the same. A lot of teams, a lot of coaching staffs, you see they are very top-heavy, meaning the starters are so prepared and could be so sound, but with injury, it's a huge drop-off. And that's because a lot of coaches will neglect the backups, and you don't get that with the staff. And this is why bowl games are important, because during the bowl week, you really, really focus on the younger guys that you may have been neglecting just by chance because they're on the scout team a lot. But we'll go ahead and we'll jump into the numbers. Just looking at the box score and the team stats, the thing that jumped out to me the most, if you guys didn't catch it, was UVA dominated this game. They dominated this game. And the thing that jumped out to me the most was the rushing. The past, I want to say, since the Pitt game, teams have been averaging over 200 yards rushing. And I know, you throwing Pitt, throwing Georgia Tech, that could skew the numbers. But even Liberty ran for a lot of yards. Even Virginia Tech ran for a lot of yards. So for a past month, teams have been averaging 200 yards versus you. And for you to regroup, have 3 weeks to prepare for a team like a South Carolina, to hold them to just 33 yards rushing says a lot. You look at passing, they came in with a quarterback that was very capable of throwing the football. I understand Deebo Samuels was out, their top flight pro prospect receiver, sat out the bowl game for personal reasons to, make sure he doesn't get injured. Because after the game he had versus Clemson, when he had over 200 yards receiving, he felt like he solidified his place in the draft, and he chose not to play. No qualms with that. I'm not going to lose any sleep because that's bettering our chances to win the ball game. And it affected them as a whole. Passing the football, they only threw the ball 200. They only had 218 yards passing. We had 208, but we had 205 yards rushing. Very balanced. 48 rushes, 31 passes. They had 39 passes to 20 attempts. They only had the ball for 17 minutes. You're not going to win any games having the ball for 17 minutes unless you got a lot of defensive touchdowns or special team touchdowns and quick hitters on offense. But when you have the ball, when you limit your opponent to having the football for just 17 minutes, that's ridiculous. We had the ball for 42 minutes. If you go and look at a Georgia Tech or any one of the service universities that service academies that run those triple options, how many times do they have the ball 42 minutes? It's not like we out here heisha running downhill. We were balanced. 42 minutes, 11-17 on third down. They were 3 of 13. They were 1 of 4 on fourth down. We were 1 for 1. The one time they got in the red zone, we shut them down, shut them out. They didn't score. And it was just pure domination. 413 total yards to 251 total yards. Olamide Zaccheaus into his University of Virginia career as one of the best talents we ever seen come through here. You can't measure heart. He may be 5 foot nothing, but you can't measure heart. You can't measure desire. He came in as a running back, transitioned to, they call him a halfback, but he's a prototypical slot back in the NFL. You know, the game has evolved. And the size that he is what offenses of the NFL love to have because they get lost behind those backers. They run a lot of option routes. He's very shifty, fast, strong, compact. And he entered his career with 3 receiving touchdowns. Some guys don't score 3 touchdowns in their college career. He scored it in 1 game. In his very last game at the University of Virginia, 12 catches, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jordan Ellis, so happy for him. Now has 1,000 yards this season. Came in the game with 920, 26 carries, 106 yards, averaged 4 yards a pop. Do you realize how hard it is to rush for 1,000 yards when the majority of your carries are basically naked dives? Meaning, he doesn't have a lead blocker on his quick hitting dives. Sometimes it's a trap, but sometimes it's just a naked dive, meaning they just giving it to him and say, hey, find the crease. Linebackers know you coming downhill. You're going to get thumped within 3 and 4 yards. But, hey, he's setting the tone. Majority of the time, his carries are to set the tone, keep defenses honest. He's the body blow in a heavyweight bout. Go to the body so we can knock you out over the top with the vertical passing game. So for him to have over 1,000 yards in a running game that called for him just to run in the face of linebackers without a lead blocker says a lot. And I can't put into words how happy I am for Jordan Ellis. Like I've been saying since day one, feed J-Train the rock. Because he's your workhorse. He's that special. He can take the thumping. So for him to have 100 yards in his last ever game at UVA is priceless. Bryce Perkins is was just dynamic. Had 208 yards passing. We talked about the 3 touchdowns through the air. Also had 81 yards rushing, broke containment, made some nice throws, battled through the pinky, which was never healthy after that Louisville game. Then he had the bad wheel, the ankle, just his toughness. Nobody knew what to expect with this guy when he transferred from a junior college. And I said from day one, he's just an avatar. And I'm not a guy that's going to toot his own horn, but I just had this belief in him when I saw him on film. It was like, yo, in this offense, he going to do damage. Because once I met him, I understood that he wasn't going to try to do too much. He wasn't going to try to prove he could do this. He was just going to play within himself, play within this offense, and he was a leader. And he just had that dog in him, that grit, that sometimes you can't get out of a box score. We all want quarterbacks to have that, paint that picture through a box score so you could be like, hey, see, I told you he's accurate, or I told you he could do this. With Bryce, before you know it, man, he has like over 300 yards total offense, but it's quiet and it's ugly. It's not flamboyant. It's a ugly, dominant game. That's the type you just appreciate. But, just breaking down this film, one thing I do want to say is, so after the Virginia Tech game, it was a lot of fire Coach and I. What is Coach and I doing? Coach and I got to do this. Coach and I got to do that. Coach and I must have listened to the broadcast of Tony Covington and Dave Kane and then Jay James on the sideline and the pregame show for myself, postgame with Tyrone Lewis and Antonio Rice with Jay James. And he must have took heed to any time, and I know Tony Covington, I said this many a times with myself, we got to employ mesh routes with the diminutive receivers that we have. With the Kemp, with TK, with Olamide. We have to use those guys in space. And the best way to use those guys in space and to utilize the inside zone and the RPOs is showing mesh routes where you have receivers crossing the face of the umpire at those middle linebackers, getting into their line of sight, causing those safeties to come downhill because they're anticipating the mesh, and now you can get over the top. Once he employed the mesh routes, and it started late in the Virginia Tech game because Jana caught a mesh route, you saw things start to open overall. You start seeing the offense being able to outflank. You saw the offense and the offensive line being able to hold up the rush because mesh routes are essentially sight adjustments. If you trigger somebody off the outside and you have a guy on the mesh route, that middle backer is going to get his eyes to that sight adjustment to try to get his hands on the receiver. So now Bryce Perkins can climb the ladder because he sees that the linebacker is trying to find that mesh route because he understands, hey, if that backer don't find this mesh route, that's a built-in sight adjustment for me. And with the sight adjustment, now we're dictating coverage. Now that safety just can't stand on that hash because he understands that that barbarian that's in the triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, can't cover that little speed NASCAR that's crossing his face. So I need the help. HBO, help a brother out. And I just think as Coach Anai continues to evolve, continues to show that he's not pig-headed. And that's what I like out of this coaching staff. They're not pig-headed. You can go in with them with suggestions. You know, it's a way about communicating to them when you feel like they should do things accordingly. I always say as an analyst, there are ways you can present a suggestion that can be reciprocated in a productive manner to which they feel like you probably right. If you say, hey, man, they need to fire them because all you need to do is this, and that, even if you're right, they're not going to be receptive to it because it's like you trying to tell me what to do. Who are you? You just got a microphone. You can't do what I do. If you could, you would be doing it. So that's why if I ever go in and I'm talking to one of the coaches, I like to pick their brain and just be like, hey, you ever thought about X, Y, and Z? Just because based off what you told me, you know, do you feel like that could be a good counter to what you see right there? Sometimes they may take it and use it. Sometimes they won't. But I'm not going to be like that. Like, see, I told you I was in there. Nah. And I think the more people in position with microphones like myself can be very selfless and have candid conversations with coaches, you can see more coaches be receptive to what the little guy is saying because the way you present it. And I felt like Coach Anai showed that. I know Coach Anai is not well liked amongst versus the other coaches that we have on staff, but you can't deny, man, he had a great year. He had a great year. He did. I mean, Bryce Perkins is a great talent. But Coach Beck and what he does with the quarterbacks, also with Coach Anai calling the plays and being collaborative. Overall, man, it's a great season. I'll have a season in review breakdown, and I don't know if I'm going to give grades, but I can just kind of put things in perspective. I just felt like Coach Anai had a great season, and I understood the vitriol from the Virginia Tech game. Don't get me wrong. I understood that wholeheartedly. But I just think sometimes we lose sight in the moment of the progression and when you look at everything in its entirety. So, damn, I'm getting long-winded. But defensively, like I said, defensively played an absolute phenomenal game. Absolute phenomenal game. With the lack of depth, we had a defensive line. We gave them different looks. We'll give them a 3-man look with 3 down linemen. Then we'll switch to just a 2 down lineman with the 2 outside backers on the outside with basically a 4-2-5 look. With Joey Blunt healthy, that helped out a whole lot with just allowing us to stand our base package look, allow Juan Thornhill to definitely be aggressive, allow Nelson to play in that nickel and cover, and Joey Blunt just being a guy that has generational instincts of just sniffing out the football, understanding formation, a very willing tackler, very willing guy to confront blockers and know how to defeat the big guys with speed without opening up an alley. It was just great to see Joey Bunt back full strength, man, because he makes a huge difference. It's infectious. Like, as a defensive back, you understand how blessed you are when you have safeties who fly around and you know they're going to be in a certain spot because they can dissect formations and understand down and distance, understand route concepts with you, and he has that. And when he was back there, now you put Nelson back into the slot because he's so crafty as a cover guy. And to see a Tim Harris just fight through adversity for 6 years and just end on a note that he ended on and just showing his cover skills with his length and his speed, and also he becoming more healthy with that 3-week preparation. And then you talk about that guy. We talked about Juan Thornhill. He's a first 3-round pick. Probably go second or third round. Another pick. He almost had another spectacular one who was playing short zone in the boundary, confusing South Carolina. That dude's special, man. I always say he's the Russell Westbrook of the football field, just the energy he plays with. He just throws his body around, and he's a phenomenal talent, man. He is a phenomenal talent. And like I said, he should go at least in the second round. I mean, somebody's going to get them a true gem that can play the island, that can play in the slot, that can play rover, that can play free safety. He can play every defensive back position at a high level. I'm not talking about he may go to corner and be decent, and then he may go to nickel and be good, and be at rover and be very good, or safety and be great. He's very good, because I don't throw around the great stuff, but he's going to be very good at every defensive back position on the pro level, because he can cover. Pedal, has instincts, great hips, superior ball skills, excellent ball skills. When I tell you he got elite hops, boy can jump out the gym. And then you talk about 3-4. 3-4. Bryce Hall. I call him Mr. Switch, because off the field, soft-spoken, very thoughtful, very humble, reads a lot. We share books and authors, but when he gets on that field, he has a switch, and he cuts it on. My favorite player growing up was Brian Dawkins. Very spiritual guy, but when he got on that field, he had an alter ego called Weapon X. My alter ego was called Mr. Idiot. And I don't know what Bryce Hall alter ego is. I just call him Switch, because when he goes on that field, he turns into a dog. I mean, he is mean. He comes up, he hits you. He's aggressive. So we all knew he can cover from bump and run. But one thing that Bryce showed me watching this film is that he definitely paid attention to his off-ball technique, his leverage, his feet, his read pedal, his ability to weave and not be stemmed and get squared up to give a two-way go to the receiver, being savvy. I mean, the kid just demonstrated that at 6'2", he can play off coverage, and that's scary. When you see a lot of corners on the pro level, we look at a guy like a Josh Norman or Richard Sherman or Patrick Peterson. Those guys are up in your face, or they playing bell technique with their butt to the sideline because they're so tall, their hips aren't as fluid to come from a square and be able to transition right and left. But Bryce Hall demonstrated to me that this offseason we could get some work in to where he can basically have zero weakness going into next year's draft. Because everybody was worried about he was going to this year's draft. Me personally, I never felt he was leaving. I shared that. I shared it once, and that was it. I didn't want to give too much insight. It wasn't like we really talked, and I was like, you need to do this, and he gave me a definitive answer. It was just like, hey, brother, I love you. Do what's best for you. Do what's best for your family. You don't owe anybody anything. Do what you feel is best for you. That's it. And when he asked me, well, what would you do? I can't answer that question because I don't want what I would do to influence what the next person would do. So if a young athlete ever asks me, when it comes to a decision like that, what would you do? Anytime somebody asks you, what would you do? You're going to influence them, whether you think that you're just a little root pooty or not. When somebody said, what would you do in my situation? They're going to be influenced by your answer. And that's why I told him, you focus on you. and what you want. What was your goal? What was your dream? My dream was to go play professional football since I was 7 years old and not knowing the lights were going to be on. And then once I got living with my big mother, it was like, oh, it is life after football. But I still just want to go pro. And you see a lot of folks saying, hey, man, get your education. You got to have a backup plan. And yes, you're right. You got to have a backup plan. But I always tell young folks, sports has an expiration date. Education does not. So you guys know why where I sway when it comes to leaving early and staying in school. That's up to your personal goal, but I always feel like, hey, you always got to bet on yourself. You basically an entrepreneur when you're a professional athlete. You betting on yourself. You're your own brand. So I don't fault a young man for leaving or staying. And the fact that he's staying, I'm elated because he made a choice for him. I know the program's elated. I know the coaches are elated. But I'm happy for him because he was comfortable in staying. That's not easy. To know you got millions waiting on you to say, I got unfinished business. And his quote was, I owe this university a lot and the staff a lot because of what they done for me. And I respect that. That's a leader right there. Will he be less of a leader if he would have left? Absolutely not. But the dude just showed me, man, he already special. You seen the tweets. You seen Crockett just have a breakdown thread of just going through him game by game, and it's great seeing somebody in the NFL pantheon or guys that played many years in the NFL just basically saying a lot of the things that I've been saying from day one. But coming from me, it's gonna seem like a homer because I have a relationship with him. So seeing outside entities basically saying some of the same things just showed you that kid is special, and he was a 2-star. And I haven't forgot about y'all to talk about the recruiting and the signings that we got and the type of players that we got and how I'm excited about that. And I don't look at stars. And I know it's a method to the madness. Everything is analytics and everything is numbers driven. So I'm not knocking those publications. But he was a 2-star. Some things you can't measure. You just don't know somebody's situation. You just don't know what's going on. But Bryce Hall was a 2-star. Juan Thornhill, he wasn't a 4-star, was he? You just never know. But I've been talking enough. Don't want to hold you guys too much. I just definitely appreciate you guys always tuning in. I do want to say this, man. With this bowl victory, it was very satisfying because of the Military Bowl and the sour taste it left in the mouths of the people that truly love this program. Even with this victory, it's going to still be a lot of cause for pause because folks are going to look back on the Georgia Tech game. They're going to look back on the Virginia Tech game. The what ifs. It could have been a 10-win season. But was this program truly prepared for a 10-win season? Because you always want to be consistent and you always want to tread upwards, right? So now we still give ourselves room to improve. So you went from 6 wins, now you're up to 8 wins. You went from 2 to 6 to 8. Be a SEC school in South Carolina. Yes, they were without one of their top weapons. That doesn't do anything for me. You still got to play. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. You be the SEC team. You won a bowl game. The Belk Bowl has been very good to this university and to this program. To top it off, if you truly despise Virginia Tech, they went to the Military Bowl. They lose. They have a losing season. I know we haven't beaten them in many years, but everybody needs a consolation prize. So if you are part of the Petty Hawk crew, Petty Hawk was laughing that, yeah, Tech, y'all beat us, but you got a losing season this year, and you lost in the same bowl we got smashed in last year to a backup quarterback. So that's Petty Hawk's way of trying to come out of Ball Hawk right now, with Ball Hawk keeping them suppressed. But I do want to say, man, I'm definitely happy for this program, man. You coaches did a hell of a job. Just watching the film, I was blown away. I was blown away at the attention to detail. I was blown away at dictating what the type of coverage coach and I wanted. Blown away how just confusing their quarterback. He just didn't know what coverage he was going to get, run a short zone to the field, short zone to the boundary. Our corners, instead of playing outside in on our cover 2 look, playing inside out because we were running a lot of cat, meaning corner blitzes. So, Juan Thornhill showing he could be the field side safety and sprint to the boundary sideline for an interception, just showing you his range. I mean, Jake Bentley is a legit quarterback. And he said he was confused. They did a great job of disguising a lot of coverage, showing our linebackers they could cover in space. Chris Peace coming off the edge with the White Freeney spin moves. And, what can you just say about these seniors, man? I never won a bowl game. I went to a bowl game every year, but I lost. I don't know what it feels like to win a bowl game. So I love the fact that this senior class came basically like a phoenix. Just came from the burning ashes to having an 8-win season, winning a bowl game, and just feeling great about their career. Having a new coach come in and not knowing what to expect, not knowing if they were a part of the future of the program because we got a new coach that got their own vision of player and the type of scheme is going to fit them. But to see these seniors just persevere and to overcome and just end out on a high note, it's just awesome. So congratulations to all the seniors, coaches. Definitely appreciate what you guys have done this year. You guys definitely show that you just get better every day. Just get better. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys, the administrators, just Carla and her team just jumping in head first, doing so much to elevate this program. And to the fan base, man, you guys, got an 8-win bowl-winning program this year. You can feel good. I know the Tech game still leaves a sour taste in your mouth, but just be appreciative because we understand just a couple years ago we won 2 games. So, damn right I'm satisfied. In my head, I can just hear somebody say, "Are you satisfied?" Damn right I'm satisfied. I'm very happy for this team. Satisfied doesn't mean that I don't always expect more, but satisfied in the sense of, damn, we did good this year. We did damn good. We looked adversity into his eyes, and we made no excuses. We were comfortable with being uncomfortable. Just like this podcast was very uncomfortable for me to do right now. I'm still not in the greatest mindset to talk sports, but Big Mama told me stop being so soft and go talk about them Cavaliers, them Wahoos, as she always says, them Whoos. So the motto, man, good is the enemy of great. Be great in everything that you do. I definitely appreciate all the condolences and everybody that supported me through this rough time, me and my family. But we back, man. We back. We'll move on. Big Mama is definitely with me everywhere I go, and just know that she loved the Wahoos, and definitely appreciate the coaching staff for the shout outs and my man Jay James and Tyrone and Antonio for holding me down in pregame, Dave Kane, and everybody, man, that I didn't share with them what was taking place. But definitely much love to you guys. But Ball Hawk, I'm out of here.
I want the whole world spin my record. Cheryl, the hooded styles, check game, stay free records. Oh, shorty girl fed to death in a massaging. Bad news, even be massaging. I got a fitted head, I be massaging. Pinky rings on my finger, I'm massaging. I got a speedboat concert cause I massage. I coming through about a whole Econo Lodge. I be massaging, I be massaged. I'm coming through with Cadillacs and massaging. Yeah, boats, I'm constantly massaging. I got GPS's, I be massaging. I catch croaker fish cause I'm massaging. I like a macaroni plate, I be massaging. Even oodles and noodles, I be massaging. Straight out the ghetto cause I'm massaging. I got ice around my neck cause I'm massaging. Or even gold teeth, I'm massaging. A pinky ring iced out cause I'm massaging. I got $100 million, I be massaging. I got $10, I be massaging. I got $1,000, I be massaging. I got 22 cents and be massaging. I take a penny and be massaging. I tell shorty girl fat, I be massaging. Your big tooth, I be massaging. I be massaging, I be massaging. I got a GPS stern with massaging. Whole share road chain be massaging. I got a ain't broke, I be massaging. I stay paid, I be massaging. I stay late, I be massaging. I hit the pool all night cause I'm massaging. She wanna come through loaded and massage. Whole team, we massage. Bad new posse constantly massage. Ain't no joke, I be massaging. Even the bacon and eggs, I be massaging. Polo shirts, Chateau Adidas, I be massaging. I love you, sweetie cake. Spin my record, let me give you the game. On how to get rich. Take a penny and flip a penny. Then 40 billion. Why? I be massaging. What? Car steering wheel. I be massaging. The whole label of the State Free Records in the VA. Oh, we be massaging. That's how my money shine.